Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my first book haul. Now, I don't know if this is a proper book haul, strictly speaking, because I haven't got a pile of lots of different books by different authors. Instead, I ordered a complete set of 12 books in one series by the same author. So for me, it's a book haul. For you, I don't know, but let's get cracking. So the first thing I notice is there is a very strong smell of ancient books. There's a lot of dust and mould spores spilling out of this box and into my lungs. I'm probably going to die of consumption, but I'm doing it for you, so I hope you appreciate my sacrifice. Okay, so these are the Swallows and Amazons books by Arthur Ransome. These are legitimate classic children's literature from the golden age of children's literature, in my humble opinion. These are some of the best children's books ever written, but they're not just for children. As with all of the best children's books, these are perfectly palatable and enjoyable for adults. And nowadays, because these are such old books, it's probably only adults that would be able to properly enjoy and appreciate them, because they're written in a slightly old-fashioned vernacular, and they feature activities and adventures carried out by the children which nowadays would at best be considered unbelievable and at worst be considered irresponsible, dangerous, foolhardy and reckless. These books were published between 1930 and 1947, but they're set in the interwar years between 1930 and 1934, and they feature essentially the same group of middle-class, rosy-cheeked, highly intelligent and very, very capable children. These children create their own adventures. Everything that happens to the children in these books is really happening, apart from two books which are anomalous. The first book is Swallows and Amazons. This is the book that gives the series its generic title, and it features 4 children who are on holiday from London in the Lake District, which is in the north of England. And these children are on their summer holiday from school, and they're living in and exploring the Lake District, and they discover an island in the middle of the lake, and they get permission from their parents to camp on this island. For the large portion of the first part of the book, what you do is follow the children as they explore the island and catch fish and prepare them and eat them, and they make their camp. They do all sorts of interesting outdoor activities that you and I and anyone else could do. And this book almost acts as a guidebook of what to do if you're in the British outdoors and you're doing a bit of camping and you want to have some fun. By modern literary standards, it's actually quite a strange way to start a book, because the bulk of the first half of this book is kind of a how-to guide of how to go camping, how to prepare food, how to make a good fire, how to draw water from the lake without getting all the scummy stuff in it. And these kids really know their stuff. They know how to sail, and there is an awful lot of sailing in all of these books, and you could kind of use these books as a beginner's guide to sailing. But nothing about this book or any of the other books in the series feels overly instructional. It's delivered in such an interesting and entertaining way, and it's so packed with narrative content that it never actually feels like a how-to guide. But the books are not just entertaining, they're also highly informative and educational. There's something for everyone in these books, and they are exquisitely well written. Arthur Ransome is a magnificent author, and he has a fabulous turn of phrase, and his style of writing and his author's voice is very, very accessible. Even though he's writing in a 1930s vernacular, grown-ups who haven't just read Harry Potter will be able to read these books and thoroughly enjoy them, and it's an easy read, it's not hard work. work at all, and you will get swept away on the adventure. It's magnificent. The children are on constant flights of fancy, and they take you with them. One of the children, when she gets left alone on the island, she becomes Robinson Crusoe. Most of the time, these children are pirates, but she becomes Robinson Crusoe when she's just on her own for a little bit. It's fun. So this book introduces us to the environment and also the main characters involved. So that's Swallows and Amazons, and this is really just the introduction to a very action-packed series of books. The next book, Swallowdale. This is where the adventures really begin. Here, all the characters have been properly introduced, you know who everyone is, and the story gets started immediately. And it begins with a shipwreck. The children crash one of their boats, and so they're forced to camp on the mainland rather than on their island. The fact that the kids have been marooned actually gives an opportunity for all sorts of other adventures to take place, which couldn't happen if the whole thing was taking place on the water. In this book, they get to go mountaineering, for example. The next book, Peter Duck, I don't like. This is shit. Avoid it. Now, a lot of people love this book, but I don't understand why. I can't imagine why anyone would want to read this book, for one simple reason. Unlike the majority of the Swallows and Amazons books, the adventures in this book didn't actually happen to the children. This book is essentially a story that the children made up about an imaginary adventure that they had. I think this one happens in the West Indies. And I can't bear it. I want to read about their real adventures. These kids are so lucky they're able to have actual, proper, real-life adventures. Why would I want to read about an imaginary one? So, the next book is Winter Holiday. And this, again, is one of my favourites. The first thing about this book that makes it completely unique and different from the rest of the books in the series is that this one takes place in winter, and it's a particularly cold and snowy winter in the north of England. It's a frozen lake and everything's covered in snow. It is essentially the Arctic. And so the kids, who are normally the Swallows and the Amazons' fearsome pirates, in this book become Arctic explorers. It's very exciting, and it has a really good narrative. It's a page-turner. And again, the character development is just exquisite. All of the characters are so well drawn and so believable, and you really care about them and enjoy going on the adventure with them. These are fabulous companions to have on your adventure as you're reading the book. The next book in the series is Coot Club, and this one is relocated from the Lake District in the north of England to the Norfolk Broads, and they have an adventure which is essentially based on environmental concerns, protecting the environment, and in particular protecting a mother coot and her eggs from egg poachers. The next book, Pigeon Post, another one of my favourites. This returns us to the Lake District, and here it is the height of summer, and all of the children, John, Susan, Titty, Roger, Nancy, Peggy, Dick and Dorothea, are all united together to go prospecting. They're looking for gold. The next book in the pile is We Didn't Mean to Go to Sea, and this is another book that relocates the action to somewhere new. Here we're in Suffolk, somewhere near Felixstowe and Harwich. So they make friends with this guy. His name's Jim Brading, and he invites them to come aboard his boat as the crew. Unfortunately, through circumstances beyond any of their control, Jim gets left ashore and the four children accidentally cross the North Sea from England to Holland. They make a North Sea crossing in the middle of a raging storm, and it's an incredible adventure. The majority of the book takes place during the storm at sea, while the children on their own are trying to navigate the North Sea and make a crossing. It's a really lovely adventure, and it's really nice to see their dad featuring quite prominently in the last portion of the book as well, and he's a great dad. The next book follows on directly after We Didn't Mean to Go to Sea. It's a continuation of that story. Their father and Jim make a plan for the children to sail to an area that's known in the book as Secret Water. It's actually somewhere in Essex, and it's a place where the children can explore and make a map. Their father sets them the task of mapping the entire area, and he abandons them, he maroons them on an island in the middle of Secret Water, and the plan is that they will map the area and have it completed by the time he arrives to pick them up at the end of the holiday. The next book is The Big Six, and this returns us to the Norfolk Broads and the children that we met the last time we were there. And in this story, this is more of a detective story. There is a crime committed and some of the children are wrongly accused of that crime, but Dick and Dorothea, using their own particular set of skills, set about the detective work of finding out who really committed the crime, and not only that, proving it so that the various adults in the book will stop telling the children off unfairly because they didn't actually do anything wrong. So a crime gets committed and the children spend the majority of this book solving the crime and proving who the guilty party was. The next book is Missy Lee, and this is another one that's known in Arthur Ransome circles as a Peter Duck book. Peter Duck isn't actually in this book, but it's a Peter Duck book in the sense that it's another made-up story. It's an imaginary story that the kids made up. None of the events in it really happened. So I hate this one as much as I hate Peter Duck. It's a stupid book. It happens in China or the South China Seas or some Far Eastern place. Missee Lee. It's also very racist, and it's just not a fun or adventurous story because you know that none of it's really happening. The kids made it up, but some people love it. Some people love the Peter Duck stories. It's just not my cup of tea. The next book, this is my absolute favourite out of all the 12 books. I love this, The Picts and the Martyrs. It's a somewhat off-putting title, but it's a title that makes perfect sense in the context of the story. It's fabulous. I love this book. It's so well written. The characters are sublime. It's just wonderful writing. Really good three-dimensional characters. Excellent dialogue. Some really funny lines from Nancy. And just an all-round good story. And the final book in the series, Great Northern, with a question mark. Now this is different again because this one takes place in Scotland in the Outer Hebrides. One of the most interesting things about this book is that the majority of the story outline was actually submitted to Arthur Ransome by a fan. Miles North actually sent Arthur Ransome the outline for this story and Arthur Ransome wrote the book. So it's actually a story by a fan which is then written by the proper author. It's quite an unusual thing. It's like me writing to J.R.R. Tolkien with a new idea for a Hobbit adventure and him actually writing it. So it would be a proper Tolkien book, a proper Hobbity book, but by me. How exciting. What an amazing thing it must be to be Miles North, the fan that actually got Arthur Ransome to write what became the last published Swallows and Amazons book in his lifetime. So there you have it. That was the 12 Swallows and Amazons books by Arthur Ransome. And I forgot to mention he also did all the illustrations as well. And he was a spy for MI6. There's just no end to this man's talent. And on that note, I think I'll call it a day. Thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you next time. See you later.